Welcome, everybody, to the CFF List Waiver Watch Draft for Week 6. I'm your host, Jay Mill. I got my partner, as usual, Willie B. And today we're joined by Purple Rain. Well, it should have been Joe Arpazzi, a.k.a. Purple Rain, who we will get back to in just a little bit with a deeper introduction. But as usual, we want to start off with recapping last week's waiver draft results. Willie, congratulations on the high score for the season. Typically, I would run us through most of these results, but since you did have the honor of having the high score, why don't you take us through what worked for you in terms of the picks last week? Because it looks like basically everybody but Zion Booker was a hit.
Yeah, I was gonna say everything clicked except for Zion Booker. Not sure what happened there. Tulsa they just really just couldn't get it together,
Right.
and that's unfortunate. I was hoping to get into the top 10 as far as the highest ever, but because of Mr. Booker, we didn't get it done. But we did talk about Caleb Hawkins. That was the gem, and I'm so glad I got a few shares of him in the waiver wire last week.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
Been hyped.
he's on a bye this week. I noticed because he was looking good as far as his percentage. But we'll talk about him more later, maybe when we throw in our post draft recommendations for people.
Yeah, so I wasn't too thrilled about the quarterback situation, so hopefully I can still continue to fix that. Drones, kind of let me down a little bit. I was expecting, high 25,
Right.
maybe possibly 30, but that didn't happen. But the tight end position, Mason Minnie, we've been hyping him up. He came through again there in the end. Got a good 17 out of him, and also been happy with what Ryan Davis has been doing all season.
Right, from Utah, exactly. You were hyping him up all week. And again, I think he's another one that might be on a bye this week. So even if he's under 30, he's a guy, unfortunately, that people
Mhm.
can't rely on to help him, if I'm not mistaken from my notes. But again, yeah, congrats. 117. You mentioned we do track our 10 worst and our 10 best of all time. I think you needed about 127 points to make it into our top 10 of all
Right.
time. Does that seem about right?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct.
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, you're probably right. Between Booker and Drones, each needing about 5 points, that cost you there. I'll kind of go back to how we looked at it last week as a whole. I think as a group we did fairly well. Unfortunately, as good as John Lobb has proven to be over the years in fantasy football in general, it seems like when he gets to our waiver watch draft, it doesn't pan out for him. He had 61.3, which was our lowest score. And again, John knows what he's doing. He just has some bad luck in terms of picking guys on some randomly bad weeks. Dylan
Hmm.
Riley from Boise State only got 5.6, even though he had 16 carries. We had talked about the fact that we weren't quite sure how those carries would be split and if Riley would be a guy people would necessarily want to rely on. Based on his points, it looks like you wouldn't want to rely on him moving forward. But based on his carries, there still could be hope that he'll be fruitful down the line. But his tight end Bauer Sharp had been averaging about 9 points a game, only got him two. And then Jalen Raynor, had a miss there with 8.1 from Arkansas State. But he was correct in our continued talk about the Rutgers wide receiver. KJ Duff turned out 20, and he got 15 basically from Gavin Sawchuk as the replacement there at Florida State for Roydell Williams. Seems to be all right. But again, going back to how we looked at it last week as a whole, 3 of the 4 quarterbacks we recommended were on point. I had 34 from Brendan Lewis from Memphis. Sarka from Air Force was a gem with 37 for Luke. Luke Probasco from the G5 Hive, who had a very respectable 98.6, which is now our third highest score from our guest pickers. That's probably your number to beat there, Joe. Is you basically get 100 points and you can come back and join us in the playoffs again like you did last season.
Hmm.
Luke hit it with a 98.6. He had Seth McGowan get him 17. Alex Teza from Navy seems to be the more consistent running back that you want from Navy. He got another 18.7, which is right in line with what he's done all season. Whereas Heidenreich is kind of your all or nothing guy for Navy. Gabriel Binyard from Kennesaw State produced 15.6. He's a receiver who's getting a few carries here and there. Another guy who might be available in several leagues still, but is another one on a bye. Um, and then Jeremy Franklin, though, was a bust. None of us seemed to hit on tight ends except for Willie B. Franklin was a bust with 2.4. Looked like he wasn't even in the game for a while, but I don't necessarily know what happened to his targets. And then my guy let me down at tight end too, Isaiah Cummings, who had much fewer targets than what he had been getting. So kind of a tight end continues to be what it always is every season, a mystery in terms of finding consistent guys. But again, my big hit was Brendan Lewis at quarterback, and I had Jordan Napier almost get to the 15 we want to see from our running backs and wide receivers with 13.4. But with that, any final thoughts on the production from last week, Willie?
I just thought as a whole, look, we're getting into that, like you said, that sweet spot where everyone should see our numbers should be higher, and they'll probably be in the high 80s to 100 going
Yep.
forward. I would say. So
Yeah, and as
we're
a goal, we shoot to get 90 points, which is what the average has been over the last couple of seasons. I think right now, collectively, between the guests and ourselves, we're averaging about 83, I think, or 82 or 83. So we're not far off pace, but we hope that comes from finding a 20-point quarterback, 15-point running backs and receivers, and possibly an 8 to 10-point tight end there. So that's kind of the goal every week. If you can get over 90, you've done a great job. If you can get about 80, I think, nobody would doubt that that's a respectable job, but we're not shooting for respectable. We're shooting for good. So to help us improve that average, we're bringing in Joe Arpazzi. He's a longtime CFF analyst, started in 2008 as the co-owner of collegefootballgeek.com. Made a return last year in 2024 as Purple Rain. He's got the letpurplerain.com website along with the Let Purple Rain podcast, which he's constantly putting out information, giving recommendations on not only waiver pickups like we're doing right now, but also he's got his Stardom Situm podcast that he puts out later in the week. But without further ado, Joe, welcome to the show, and let us know how your CFF season's going for you so far.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back on. It's the second year that I've been on the show with you guys here, and this fantasy season so far, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I mean, I'm going to admit I'm probably in a little too many leagues, like that you have to actively manage.
Gotcha.
For the website workload that I do. But I would say like the two biggest leagues I focus on the most is my own home league that I've been running. I can't remember how many years now, maybe since 2010. I'm hanging in there. I'm in the cutoff for the playoffs in that one. And then the Kings Classic, which all of us are in. I've been kind of hanging in there. The team's scoring not as much as I'd like, but my record's doing pretty good. So just trying to keep taking care of the wins and losses there.
Yeah, and I think we might have you on the docket this week. The CFFLists Purple Rain matchup might be in effect in the Kings. If I'm not mistaken, I might not have that 100% right, but I think we're slated to face each other this week.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of us that are just kind of grouped together that are real similar records, and I think there's a difference of like 2 losses between the top half of that league right now.
Yeah, and we're 6-4. We bounced back with another 2-0. I think we're with you on that. We've been in a home league since 2008 together. After kind of many years starting our pro league in '89. We got into college in '08. Willie's always been my partner in crime with any fantasy endeavors that we get involved in. So we're keeping track of that home league just like you are, because that's probably the closest to our heart, like most people. But I have to admit, the first score I check is always that Kings Classic. And then next for me would probably be that 60-team league that Thor runs. That's always fun to kind of see how we're doing there. And I'm trying to bounce back. I got up to 2-3 there after a shaky start, but my Marshall guys helped lift me up this week. With I happened to pick up the top running back and receiver from Marshall now that they finally figured out who they're going to target in the backfield and in the air. Each of those guys got me 30. Unfortunately, more guys with a bye. This probably is the largest bye week we've got all season. Doesn't it seem like that, Joe? Like we got more guys
It
on bye
does.
week 6 maybe than any other week.
I had to scrape pretty far in the barrel to grab
Yeah.
players for this draft, and I was thinking that there's going to be 4 of us. When I
Yep.
saw there's going to be 3, I said, "Thank God."
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, this week does look rough, and you reminded me too.
Yep.
The league that I'm hosting, the Battle for the Belt.
Right.
The Battle for the Belt League. We're still in the regular season. It's an 8-week regular season, and there's 4 divisions with 13 teams, and the top 8 teams go into a divisional playoff in week 9. Right now, I'm doing pretty good. I've got the second highest score in my division, so I'm in a pretty good setup for making that top 8 for my division.
Right. Yeah. You had announced that. That's basically the other really large supersized league there. So yeah, good luck with that. That sounds like a fun one, and I know you got a lot of good people involved with that, and you had the big live draft. Tuned in for a little bit of that. When you had that going. So congrats on getting that up and running. That should maybe we'll jump in and join that one next year. So. All right, but much like yourself, I'm used to figuring out which 4 quarterbacks, 8 running backs, and 8 receivers I'm going to have on my list to make sure I don't run out. Since we a lot of times have 4 people, probably is the perfect week to have 3 of us, since the pickings are a little slimmer with so many teams on buys. And our goal, as a refresher, is to pick players that will help you immediately. This is a critical week for that, since there are so many buys. But like Joe mentioned, the pickings are slim because there's a lot of guys that we would have recommended to get on your roster this week that can't help you this week because they also have buys. So it'll be interesting to see where we go with this. Joe, you're going to start us off. I will get 2 picks at the end here at pick number 3, and we'll reverse it there back to Willie, and then that'll be the only double pick is me at the end here. And actually, Willie, when we've done 3, have we done 2 picks, or we just go in order here? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
No, I think we've kept it the same.
Okay, yeah, we do one kind of double pick at the end of the round.
Right.
Since,
right.
Unfortunately, I get to go third. Okay, so Joe, with that, let's kick off the week 6 waiver draft and see who you got.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with hands down the weakest position of all of these this week.
Okay.
The top 3 guys that I'm going to be recommending in my waiver wire targets article are all on buys.
Okay.
So I'm going to start things off with running back Wayne Knight from James Madison.
Okay. He was also at the top of my list, by the way, for anyone who cares. Even though I haven't had the best performance this season, he was at the top of my list for whatever that's worth. Yep. All right, and Willie's going to be helping out getting logos in there for everybody. But I also know you have a pick, Willie. So as far as Wayne Knight, averaging 22.2 points a game. He's on the upswing. He's had 20 and 28 the last couple of weeks. But the thing you like to see is his carries have also increased and have seemed to be getting consistently high. With 17 and 19. So again, you're looking for volume guys. He's also got the matchup since we're looking for guys that can produce right away. He's got Georgia State this week. Based on the Fantrax ratings, they're 131st in terms of giving up points to running backs. So hopefully that works out for you, Joe, because that's pretty bad, Georgia State running defense there.
Yeah, I gave this a fantasy matchup grade of an A+ for him, and so it's hard to do much better than that.
Yeah, it should be. The only problem is that maybe if that Georgia State run defense is too weak, they try to spread it out. But the way it's been going, he's been pretty consistent getting the carry, so it should be okay. Willie, you're up next, and I do agree, though, that running back spot was the hardest to fill out. I was happy to just get the 6 running backs on that list this week.
Really?
Yeah, I think I did find a 7, but it took me a minute. I had to go pretty deep.
I got you.
I found 8, but it took a while.
Well, the number one.
Willie, you made it seem like you've got plenty. How many do you have on your running back list?
Let's see.
Mr. Number 1.
9? Yeah, I'm 9.
9, okay. All right. Well, Well, you don't have to tell us who your top guy is yet, but
well, I'm gonna take I'm gonna take my number 1 guy here.
Okay.
That's gonna be Quay Ashley from Ball State. He's 12% rostered. He had a bye last week, but he's gonna get you double-digit carries. The last time they played, he had 18 for 86 and a score. He's averaging 17.1. They get Ohio, who's giving up 160 plus on the ground, and they've given up 7 scores. So Quay Ashley is my start.
Okay, and I know he's somebody we picked up in the Kings Classic that we're hoping to get back in the lineup this week, right?
Right, that's correct.
Right. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna, knowing that two of the top 2 guys, that was number 2 on my list. So since the top 2 guys are gone, I'm gonna go ahead and take the guy I had at number 3 on my running back list, because I feel like if I wait, I may not get anybody except the guys at 5th and 6th, and there's a big drop off in terms of how I've got these guys ranked. So for my my third best running back, since the top 2 are gone, I'm going to go ahead and take Javon Ducker from Temple. He's 14% rostered. He's going against UTSA. Kind of a middle of the road defense there in terms of what they're giving up against the run. And would just like to point out, he's only averaging 13 a game, but he's had 15 plus in 3 games, and his average is a little lower due to that Oklahoma matchup that they had a couple weeks ago where he only had 6 points. So I would say don't be scared of the 13 points per game. He's still managed 15 plus in 3 out of his 4, so he should be a safe bet to get you in that 15 to 18 point range. And I'm sorry, that's about as good as you're going to get from these waiver guys this week. So don't be scared to take him because of the 13 is what I will leave it at for Javon Ducker.
All right, he's on my list. So
yes. The next guy I'm going to take. Because again, the names are pretty rough. Also at receiver, a lot of new names. So some interesting, fun names at receiver that I hadn't really seen available that I was interested in at all earlier in the season that did emerge. I think I'm going to go receiver just to make sure, I can get one that I do like. It's another This one's not purely, but heavily based on the matchup. It's Ja'Cory Thomas from Old Dominion. He's 1% rostered. That could really help this week because you are going to have to dig deep to find some guys. Love the fact that he's playing Coastal Carolina, who's 127th against wide receivers in fantasy points allowed. He's averaging 16.2. He is catching balls from the number 1 fantasy quarterback in the land right now, Colton Joseph. We know Joseph does like to run a little bit, but the opportunities are going to be there to throw this week against Coastal Carolina. He's had 20-point games in 2 of his last 3. He did have 11 2 weeks ago, but he had 28 this week. And his only disappointment was against a really tough Indiana team in week 1 where he had 4.4. So again, he's another guy who should continue to see his points per game go up. So because they're not going to play anybody that's Indiana's caliber for the rest of the season, and he seems to be doing very good against equal competition. So I'm happily take Ja'Cory Thomas, who's only 1% rostered there.
I like it. He's let's see, I think he was 5th. I had him listed 5th, but that could have very likely have been just in the order that I found them. So
the order you found him, yeah, that's kind of how I had in mind. You put them down on the list just as soon as you can find them. All right, Willie,
right.
Coming back to you, Willie.
All right, so I'm gonna still take my number 1 guy, and despite the matchup that they have with Iowa State, and that's going to be Cyrus Allen from Cincinnati.
Okay. Yep.
He's 8% rostered. He's averaging 20 and a half. He had 14 targets against Kansas. So he finished up with 11 catches for 128 and 2 scores. He has 5 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Yep. So I just like the connection that they have going there, and he seems to be the hot hand right now.
Yeah, it's funny how you mentioned how we put these guys in order. He was at the top of my list, but only because he's got the highest points per game of anybody that's out there under 30% rostered, which is our criteria. So he was at the top of my list, but he wasn't my first choice. But he's still one that I would have taken if I got in a pinch here. If you guys took a lot of receivers early.
Yeah, I'm not going to be too afraid of the Iowa State defense. Worst case scenario, let's get in a shootout, and who doesn't love that?
Right. All right. Joe, we're coming back to you, but you only get one here. We only do the double up picks once, and then we'll go back to Willie after Joe's second pick here.
Yeah, I'm debating hard. Okay. It's a tough one here. I wish I had 2 picks, to be honest with you guys. I think, I want to lean wide receiver right now, but I think I'm going to start things off at quarterback instead, though.
Okay.
And I'm going to take Anthony Calandria, UNLV.
Yep. Okay.
He's got Wyoming this week. I've got the fantasy matchup grade from a passing standpoint as a B plus. A couple things I like too. Wyoming's giving up touchdowns in the red zone 60% of the time. Giving up third down conversions 40% of the time. Those are all some pretty good numbers. And over the last 3 weeks, he's been averaging about 24 points. So I just want to kind of, it's one of these things of like, I'll just say it. I know he's not off the board, but like Alonzo Barnett, I like him, but I don't think I want to double up James Madison guys who could get rushing touchdowns. So that also kind of does limit my quarterback list here. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with Calandria and just kind of get a guy who's been a steady Eddie. He might not put up a ton of points, but maybe this will be one of his better ones. I doubt he'll hit 30, but he should be somewhere that 25 to 28 point range.
Yeah, and if you're filling it, and he's going to get you some rushing yards too. He's had over 50 in the last 2, so he can get it in a variety of ways. And sometimes you just need that safe guy for your bye week replacement. So I mean, if you can get a quarterback to get you 20 this week because your 25-point guy's got to sit or your 30-point guy's got to sit, your opponent probably is in the same boat. So get your 20-point guy in there that's going to be guaranteed instead of taking that chance on a guy that you hope hits the home run. I think that's a great pick. He was my number 2 guy. I'll get to my. Yep. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, with Calandria and his rushing ability too, Wyoming's given up 4.9 yards a carry, which is really good. So I'm pretty sure he might get a little higher rushing yardage than he normally gets.
Right. Good point. All right, Willie. Back to you. Seems like being in the middle of the 3-man draft might be a benefit today.
Yeah, I think so. But I'm going to go ahead and take my number 1 quarterback. That way, you don't snipe him from me later. And that's going to be Brendan Lewis from Memphis.
Okay.
Brendan's averaging 26.3. It's coming off a 33.8 performance against FAU. Speaking of dual threats, he had passed for 2 touchdowns. He ran for another 2. He's had 4 rushing touchdowns the last 2 games. So they get Tulsa, which we just talked about a little bit about Tulsa previously. I expect Memphis to they may have 40. So Brendan Lewis is the one. He barely made the list. I checked it a couple times, hoping that he wouldn't get to 30. So
me too.
This would be the last time. So might as well take him now.
Yeah, and I'm looking. Tulsa's he's definitely got a brighter upside there against their rushing defense. They've given up 11 touchdowns. So
yeah,
I think he's going to.
It's just which you got a 3-headed monster of guys at Memphis that could all score rushing touchdowns, and that's the one thing that worried me. Why I had Lewis as my QB2.
Yep, and I had both of those guys at the top. Luckily, there's I thought there were a few decent options at quarterback, so I guess I'm okay with you guys taking them this week, but we'll find out. I thought about grabbing Lewis there with one of my swing picks, but I went wide receiver instead. So now I know I can wait on that. Let me go a little bit outside the box here. I've got 4 tight ends on the list, but I'm going to take a guy that I actually grabbed in a couple of leagues last week, maybe getting a little bit ahead of the curve with him, and that's Gavin Harris at tight end for New Mexico State. He ended up with 15.7 this week, 15.7 points. The last 2 weeks, he's seen his targets go up to 8 a couple of weeks ago and 7 last week, which helped him produce the 15.7. He's averaging 11 points per game for the season, technically 10.9, but close enough to 11. And in a world here where the tight ends this year, we know they're unpredictable, maybe outside of 3 or 4 guys every year, but seems even more unpredictable this year. We've got guys from the very top of the year-to-date leaders list leaving the year-to-date leader list kind of still, and we're in week 5. So I'll try to go with a guy that I think is going to be pretty consistent the rest of the way, and that's Gavin Harris from New Mexico State going against Sam Houston, who I don't think he'll have any problems getting his usual 10 or 11 points against.
Yeah, I like that. He was number 1 on my list, so good pick there.
Okay,
and
thanks.
not sure what Sam Houston is doing, especially on defense. So,
Right. Yeah. Now, Joe, you
Yeah.
don't have to wait this time. You get to go right after me this time from here on out.
All right. I'm going to admit, wide receiver position, like I said, I was thinking about that last time because I think there's a big drop off when I look at
Yep.
it's not necessarily the guys that are available, it's the matchups, which is where I see a drop off.
Hmm.
So I'm going to go with, I think, the safest guy that's available on the board for me. I'm going to take Raphael Williams from Pitt.
Right.
Over the last 3 weeks, he's averaging 17.3 points per game. He was okay this last week, but he's still a pretty stable guy. I look at this matchup with BC. I gave it a B plus grade for the fantasy matchup. Boston College has given up touchdowns in the red zone 64.3% of the time, and they're giving up 1.75 passing touchdowns per game.
Right. Yeah, he was right there. He was in the top three out of the guys I was choosing from. So he's one that I deliberated about grabbing there, even with my first pick. So I don't think you can go wrong there. And Willie, back to you.
yeah, I'm gonna go to the well again. We
Okay.
talked about him earlier, and that's going to be Ryan Davis from Utah.
Okay.
7% rostered.
There you go.
He's just up and
Wait.
coming as far as well. Hold on, he's on a bye, isn't he?
Yeah, I was going to say. I think I
Okay,
had mentioned he was on a buy.
yeah,
Then you made me
yeah, I
think I was
think
a little
so.
crazy.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah, okay,
you're gonna have to
yeah,
regroup.
yeah, still, yeah, I have to regroup there. Just slide it. I'll just slide it on down.
Well, what we'll do is we'll say that this would be one of your guys you'd recommend to pick up for the rest of the season. Then.
Absolutely, yeah,
So we don't have to. You don't have to
absolutely.
say that at the end now. When I come around and ask for the picks like that at the end. Okay. No
Well,
doubt he's going to be good though.
okay. Well, then what I'll do is we'll double up and we'll take the connection. So we're gonna go Cortez Braham,
Yep. Okay.
also from Memphis. He's 4% rostered, averaging 16.8, just coming off of a 30.7 outing against FAU. He's had 19 targets the last two games, three touchdowns in the last two games. Why not? We talked about what they can do on the ground, but he gets it done through the air. Back-to-back 100-yard receiving games.
Yep.
So Cortez, give him a
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah. I like it. My top four receivers are now off the board, and I've got one of them. So you guys took the next three that I had on the list after that. So I think it gets a little stickier after what we've seen on the board right here. Let me compare that now though to running backs and how sticky a situation I think we've got there. Um, yeah, running back may be even stickier. So I think I'll take the guy that there's not really a question about at Delaware, uh, who will continue to get his production. That's Joe Nathan Silver, uh, Delaware's running back one. I mentioned that there's no question about him continuing to get his carries because they've also got a good receiver there, Duplessis, that a lot of people have picked up here in the last couple of weeks. But they've got another receiver that might be coming back from injury, Thal. So I think it's a little safer to take the Delaware running back right now than lean on any of their receivers. We all know the quarterback's doing a great job there too. So it looks like what's working for Delaware is you can't really focus in on any one part of that team to try to shut them down. And they've been a nice surprise, moving up to the FBS. But I'll go with Jonathan Silver. He's been on this list multiple times on the draft board multiple times. He's up to 24%. So he's probably one of those guys. In half the leagues, you probably really can't get him. And even though he's listed at 24% rostered, typically, if you're in a league with people that know what they're doing, a guy even in the high 20s might be gone anyways. But this will definitely be the last week you should be able to get your hands on a guy like him. So I'll round out my running back group with him going against a pretty poor Western Kentucky rush defense there. Joe, now we'll see. I guess yeah, you've got an option here between probably any of the three remaining positions: running back, receiver, or tight end. Because you and Willie, you and I both need a receiver. You and Willie both need a running back still. So a little bit of chess going on still.
Yeah, I'm going to do some matchup plays here, and I'm going to go running back, and I'm going to go with a guy. Over the last 3 weeks, he's only averaging 14.17 fantasy points a game, but he had a big game last night. He has an amazing matchup with Akron, who's given up just over 5 yards a carry, 2 rushing touchdowns per game. I'm going to take Nyreed Biggins from Central Michigan.
I saw him. How do you spell the first name? I didn't have him on my list. That's probably the one you had that I didn't have. In his Biggins, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. All right. Yeah, he was one that was close to going on the list, but didn't quite make it because I like the other 7. But yeah, that's a solid 8th there. Clearly top 4, top 5 guy for Joe.
Matchup play here with Akron.
Yep.
Yeah,
well, Akron,
we had going with the matchup, and Akron.
Yeah, Akron's one of those defenses we pinpointed as you want to play anybody against Akron that you can this season. There's always that team, and they seem to be it this year. When does Maction start, by the way? Did we decide, is it next week or the week after when Maction starts? I can answer my own question here. Let's see.
Yeah, I think you
thought Maction starts once we start getting the two. I think it technically starts when you start to get the Tuesday, Wednesday games.
Yeah, we get some Wednesday games, but these are Conference USA games next week or on the 8th. It looks like we will go Tuesday. Wow, more Conference USA Tuesday the 14th. So technically, it looks like Conference USA may have replaced Maction. That's interesting. I hadn't even looked at the schedule to see that. So we need a term now for Conference USA because they're really taking over the Tuesday time slot here. It looks like, and with some Sun Belt, you don't have nearly as many MAC games. Okay, all right. Well, looks like in a couple of weeks we're going to have.
Maybe just ESPN doesn't want to carry the MAC.
Yeah, interesting. But looks like here 2 weeks is basically October 8th is the start of nonstop football for 8 straight weeks, which we all love. All right, Willie. Sorry, cut you off there.
No, you're good. All
right.
It's getting slim at this position. Wasn't too confident on the other 3 guys after you took Gavin Harris. But okay. I'm going to go with Noah Myers from Western Kentucky, averaging 8 points a game, but he is coming off back-to-back games of 14.1 and then 15.8. Like I said, it gets slim out here. He does have some nice matchups the rest of the way. We know that Western Kentucky is kind of struggling defensively for sure. So this might be a play for you this week, and then obviously for the rest of the season based on the rest of their schedule.
Gotcha. Wait, and it's Noah, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm only seeing Isaiah there from Western Kentucky. I don't know why he's not showing up in Fantrack for me, but
because it's MEY. That's probably why.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to grab his percentage. He's 2% rostered. Okay, great. Okay, got it. All right. Well, typically I don't get too confident in Western Kentucky tight ends because you don't necessarily know if they're going to give them too much attention. But I would say you've probably been on a much better streak than me here in terms of picking guys. So who am I to doubt your picks at this point, right?
Well, and it's not quite the same offense as what you're used to. So that's part of it.
Yeah. Everybody spent a lot of money on those. On the personnel at WKU after that week 0 game that they had, and none of that the free agent money is paying off for too many of those purchases that people made after week 0.
Right.
McIver slowed down. Nope. The receivers are all over the place. The guys you thought were going to get 20 points a game are getting 8 and 9, 10 points a game. So maybe you found the right guy to target there at Western Kentucky because the other guys are not paying off for people that blew a ton of free agent bucks on them early in the season.
Yeah, and then like I said, at this position, I mean, 8 is all you can hope for. So.
Yeah, if you can get 8, it's better than the goose egg or the 1 that Jeremiah Franklin put up last week, which
right,
total shock to me. All right, well, you guys have left me to take quarterback at the end. I will take another matchup option here. I hesitate only because the guy who liked throwing him the ball is out for a couple of weeks, but I still like the production that Oklahoma's Isaiah Satania has been putting up. He's had 9 and 11 targets the last 2. Again, it's a different quarterback, but they're playing Kent State, so it's probably the perfect game you would want your backup quarterback to start to get his feet wet with here against a team like Kent State. But Satania is putting up 14.2 points a game. As far as points, he's had 17 and then 27 in the last two against much better competition. So hopefully, again, even with a drop in quarterback, there's also a big drop in competition here. So I think they'll still be putting up the they'll have as much volume as they have in the air, and Satania should still be a big part of that, as you pointed out to me a couple of weeks ago, Willie.
Yeah, I mean he is kind of their gadget guy, but he's just always all over the field, and he may get you some return touchdown points too. So we do count those.
Yeah, and some leagues don't. Which Joe, what's your feeling on should running backs and receivers get points for return touchdowns? We were shocked when we joined the larger community a couple years ago, outside of our home league, that a lot of leagues don't seem to give return TD points to skill players. What's your opinion on that?
I don't know. There's a couple ways I think you can do it. If you're doing defense/special teams in your
Mm-hmm.
leagues, then I would say I don't think you need to count it because you're already getting touchdowns included with
Okay.
that.
All right.
I've never really been in any league that's done it for the individual player, so
Okay.
it makes it, I think, a little bit harder too because like in the preseason, how exactly do you predict who's going to be the returners and then
Right.
trying to reevaluate projections or where guys should fit in based on that?
Right.
I personally don't have a good feel for how to come up with that prior to the season.
Right. And I guess that's where we just realized we were the odd ones out because we just thought it was normal because we had always done it. But sometimes when you're more isolated, you don't realize what you're doing is so unusual in your league until you find out most other leagues don't do it. So yeah, interesting to see that. It seems like for the majority, they're not used to players getting those points. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is what it is. Maybe we'll encourage some people to add it. We actually add it, and we create a bonus for it. We give 10 points in most leagues that we're in for guys getting those really long return TDs. But nonetheless, we have a little time here to talk about some other things since there's just three of us. That's one little sidetrack there. But we'll let you get to your regular pick here, Joe.
All right. Do you want me to just do both my picks or just we'll
Yeah,
save
we've
my
been
second one
doing
for the
that.
end?
Yeah, you can go ahead and grab your receiver and your tight end here to finish it off for your team.
All right. I'm going to go with someone. It's a matchup play. I don't have his individual games in front of me here, but Donovan Fappel from New Mexico State. He's had two pretty decent games with one stinker in between. That's been kind of lowering his fantasy points per game. But
Mm-hmm.
he has Sam Houston State. Sam Houston State, like I give this a B plus fantasy matchup grade. Sam Houston State's given up 2.75 passing touchdowns per game. They're giving up touchdowns in the red zone 73.7% of the time, allowing third down conversions 51.8% of the time. Fappel he hasn't really been able to get
Yep.
into the end zone much, but if there's a good chance for him to do it, I think this is a week for it to happen.
Yeah, I
Now,
got to
was he a
admit,
little dinged up?
I
Was
say
he?
that.
Hold on, sorry, Jay.
And
No,
he's been averaging over the
Yep.
last 3 weeks.
over the
What
last
were you
three
going to
weeks,
say,
you
Willie?
said. Yeah,
What was
I
that,
was
Willie?
looking at his game uh, 2 weeks
Louisiana
ago.
Tech.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, where he had 5 targets, but he didn't have any stats. So I was just curious. Was he injured or what was going on there? Because
Yeah, tough to say.
that's the reason why
Yeah.
I didn't add him to the list because I saw that big zero staring at me.
Yeah, I don't know what happened that week, but I'm glad Joe drafted him and mentioned him because he was a guy that I missed on the list and hadn't seen, and because of the other 3 weeks being so good in terms of the number of targets and the production, um, I would dig into maybe why that happened, but I wouldn't be as worried just based on the fact that he bounced right back and got another 21 points the week after. If Joe doesn't know about any injury against Louisiana
Mm-hmm.
Tech, yeah, but yeah, I like that one.
And then for my final pick, I'm going to go with the guy who he had a down game last week, Isaiah Cummings, Appalachian State. But I
Mm-hmm.
definitely like this matchup with Oregon State much better. Last week, I knew that Appalachian State would be better on the ground than in the air with Boise. This week is the opposite. They're facing Oregon State. For fantasy matchup grades, it's a C plus for the Appalachian State running game, but it's an A minus for their passing game. The grades that I hand out. Um, Oregon State's given up 2.6 passing touchdowns per game. So I think this will be one where you're going to see a big bounce back from the Appalachian State passing game.
Yeah, I might have just taken him on the wrong week with that matchup last week. I thought, his with his skills, he could just overcome it. But Boise, I should have paid more attention to that Fantrax ranking last week. Maybe it shows they do know what they're doing when they post those rankings for us to look at, because Boise was 22nd against tight ends last week, and I totally ignored it, thinking that he was still going to get his targets no matter what. But good pick nonetheless. We will now wrap it up with Willie's last pick and then mine. So, Willie, you got to go running back. Who do you like here as the sixth running back off the board? You said you had 9.
Yeah, I have these matchups do scare me a little bit, but I'll go ahead and go with the young guy. He's coming off of 14 carries, and then he had 15 carries yesterday for a buck 68 and 2 touchdowns, and that's Nate Shepherd from Duke. And let's see, Mr. Shepherd is 6% rostered. And like I say, he's becoming a little bit more consistent. He's averaging 15.6, but he's coming off of 21.6, 11.1, and then yesterday he had 36.1. So fresh on my mind. That's one of the reasons why. And then the other guy I was toying with was Chauncey Bowens from Georgia. But we'll go Nate.
Yeah, I was looking at Bowens also. I was trying to see, do we know if Nate Shepherd's a true freshman? He didn't have any stats listed for last year, so could be a great Dynasty League pickup there too, because it looks like he's a freshman. I just don't have verification of if he's a redshirt freshman or a true freshman.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that.
Either way, he's got a few years left for those Dynasty League owners, especially since he's only 6% rostered here. Yeah, good. All right, well, while you look that up, I will figure out here out loud which quarterback I will take. Certainly considering Liam Sarka from Air Force. They're going against Navy, but Navy's been pretty tough against fantasy quarterbacks this season, 35th in terms of the ranking, but it is certainly hard to ignore the 35 and 37 points he's put up in the last 2 weeks. He's had 111 plus rushing each of the last 2 weeks. He's had close to or over 250 yards passing. So again, very hard to pass that up. But there's a couple of guys that you could also consider, along with me here, as I consider. Bear Bachmeier looked pretty good against Colorado last night. He's going against West Virginia, who does not have a very good passing defense, and along with Noah Fafita, who's going against Oklahoma State. We all know the troubles that they're going through there. So you kind of have a coin toss between one of those two. And it's just tough. I think I like the path that Bachmeier's on. So, I've been kind of shrugging off the Air Force players here this season. Could come back to bite me. I just find it tough for Sarka to do it 3 weeks in a row. So I'm going to go with Bear Bachmeier as my option here against West Virginia. Because again, it just looks like he's trending up, in my opinion. He's 21% rostered versus the Air Force quarterback, who's at 8%. If you're needing to dig a little deeper, I would certainly say it's a little bit of a toss-up here for me. So you could go grab either one, including Fafita in that, in my opinion, going against Oklahoma State, who's 22%. So I've already mentioned there a couple of the other guys I might consider. Okay. Yeah, Willie, what about you?
I like going back to the Duke players. Cooper Barkate, I liked him. What he's been putting in, averaging 16 a game. He's not going to get you a lot of targets, but he just gets the job done.
The receiver, right? The wide
receiver?
Yeah,
the receiver. Yes. He's had double-digit fantasy points in every game, and so the most amount of targets he's ever had in one game is 10. So I mean, he gets it. He gets his work done on limited touches. But I still like what he's done. Lavelle Wright, speaking of Western Kentucky, I had him on my list, and this is the running back. Let's see, Lavelle. He yesterday had 10 for 91 and 2 scores. He's had 2 touchdowns in each of his last 2 games.
Okay.
So that's one to consider there for the Hilltoppers, 2% rostered. Let's see. And then the quarterback, this will probably be the last time that he's going to be available, and that's Connor Wiegman from Houston, who's 26%
Right.
rostered. I didn't take him only because of that Texas Tech defense. So
Right.
that's the only reason why I didn't snag him.
Same thing there. Yeah, same rationale for me. I had mentioned three quarterbacks that I was kind of choosing between for my one. Wigman was a close fourth, but again, the matchup turned me off. Um, Real quick, I will mention mine. In terms of some guys, like you said, we got a lot of guys on buys that you can still pick up this week that can help you the rest of the season. I like the way Jaquil Middlebrook is trending at Middle Tennessee. There was a lot of noise about what a great spring camp he had and a preseason camp. It looks like he's finally getting the production that some of us anticipated he might have now that he's playing his Conference USA opponents. So Middlebrook there is, I guess, trending up, as I would say. And then your guy, Caleb Hawkins, who's had two phenomenal weeks back to back from North Texas, is still available in apparently 90% of leagues. That's hard to imagine after the week he had last week, but he's defined himself as the clear go-to guy in the North Texas backfield. Lastly, name a couple of receivers to keep your eye on. Luke from the G5 Hive drafted and recommended Gabriel Binyard from Kennesaw State last week. He had another good week with 16 points again, following 18 and 23. Does get some carries. And then Braden Pegan from Utah State has been very productive the last couple of weeks. So I wouldn't hesitate to grab him if you're in need of a receiver outside following week 6. And then the receiver from Marshall, Lacey. Again, it wasn't clear at all who Marshall was going to be targeting as their running back one and their wide receiver one, but they've definitely made it clear that Allen is the running back one and Lacey is the wide receiver one. Lacey had 27 and 38 points the last 2 weeks, as Marshall put up 42 and 51 points, which still wasn't enough last night to get them the win. But Lacey, he's not just a numbers on paper guy either. If you watch him play, he plays hard, little fast guy, quick guy, who can turn a 5-yard catch into a 50-yard reception. So that's the last one I'll mention. I know it looks like Joe might have got bounced off a little early, but regardless, we got all his picks in, we got all his notes in. Make sure to tune in to his podcast at letpurplerain.com. You can get all the information you need there. It's a great subscription service that's worthwhile. He's been taking notes since way back, like we said, one of the founders of putting out CFF information. So we appreciate Joe coming around. He was one of our playoff contenders with some really good picks last season, so we know he knows what he's talking about. With that, though, Willie, I'm finished. How about you?
Yeah. Just lastly, that Nate Shepard. Yeah, he is a true freshman. And
Okay, good. Good note from Duke.
and a track guy. So that's one of the pickups there for deeper leagues. I may have to go snag him if I can. But other than that, no. A great week all around for last week, and so good luck to you guys. Thank you for watching and listening, and good luck this week.
Take care.